5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to the MCTV Weekly News Update. I'm Briana Flynn.
And I'm Bonnie Orr. We have a lot in store for you this week, so let's jump right into our first story. A groundbreaking natural disaster rocked the Chinese province of Sichuan on Sunday. Literally. A potent earthquake tore through the region, killing nearly 200 people and injuring over 11,000 others. The strength of the quake came in at 6.6 on the Richter scale, according to the U.S. Geological Survey, spawning over 2,000 aftershocks and causing road blocking, landslides that prolonged rescue services from getting to the disaster area. It is becoming clear that saving lives and cleaning up is not going to be an easy task. Nearly 18,000 soldiers from neighboring regions have been sent to the areas worst affected, along with over 100 planes and 23 helicopters hauling recovery materials. Some locals affected by this disaster are claiming that although bodies have been removed, aid has not been provided. The Associated Press described how children stood on the side of the road holding a sign reading, quote, "No water, no shelter," in a plea for help. Despite all the misfortune, a few encouraging stories came out of the disaster. One Chinese journalist postponed her wedding day in order to go report on the quake, still dressed in her gown. This disaster is expected to give the Chinese government a boost in respect, as they're typically considered as self-centered. Volunteers have already taken action, accepting financial donations and ensuring that the area's endangered panda population remains safe at a facility near 30 miles from the epicenter.
While we take time to support the recovery in China, the effects of a devastating Japanese earthquake more than 2 years ago are still being felt next door. The Fukushima nuclear power station has had numerous radioactive water leaks since the disaster, and as CNN's Diana Magnay reports, local fishermen don't believe that's going to change anytime soon.
It's a huge catch for a tiny boat. All manner of fish flap about on the deck, but it's too choppy for us to film. By the time we're back at the port, there's little movement.
Today's catch would have been worth $3,000 US, they think, far more than they would have caught before Fukushima, because these waters are now so underfished. But all they can do with them is sort out the biggest varieties and send them off to the lab for testing. They can sell none of this.
Sea bream, flounder, sea bass, a gigantic monkfish. Like throwing away money, the fishermen say. We can't put them on the market. There's nothing we can do, says Mitsunori Suzuki. Wrecked boats litter Iwaki Harbour still 2 years after the tsunami, a wasteland where buildings once stood. But it was the nuclear disaster at Fukushima Daiichi power plant 30 kilometers further north which destroyed these men's livelihoods. Contaminated water used to cool highly radioactive nuclear fuel released straight into the ocean by TEPCO, the plant operator, in the weeks after the earthquake and tsunami. 2 years on, the fishermen are frustrated to hear of further leaks. TEPCO says they'll dig a hole right in front of the reactor building and throw that groundwater into the ocean before it gets contaminated, Suzuki says. But what's happened now is there's a leak in a reservoir above, so that groundwater won't be clean. One of TEPCO's many problems is that groundwater is leaking into the damaged reactor buildings, 400 cubic meters a day, on top of the 300 cubic meters it has to pump through to cool the nuclear fuel debris sunk deep inside the reactor vessels. That water gets contaminated too, and all of it needs to be stored somewhere. Leaks in the underground reservoir system mean TEPCO's having to resort to overground tanks, 900 of them, 80% of which are full. Last week, inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency examined the site to check on the decommissioning process and to see for themselves whether TEPCO's measures to deal with its water issues are effective, namely a better purification technology still in testing, which TEPCO says would make the contaminated water safe enough to release, and a pumping system to try and lower the groundwater level so it won't seep into the reactors. But these men lost their faith in TEPCO a long time ago. They always say it's all right, it's safe, says Suzuki. But if anything happens and it comes on the news, it always turns out they're not telling the truth. So if you ask if I believe them, I don't. And although these fish have trace radioactivity below the food safety level, they can't sell them. It'll be a long time before the market regains faith in a Fukushima-branded fish. Diana Magne, CNN, Iwaki, Japan.
Now, I read earlier today that the Fukushima power station is going to take 40 years to rebuild. Even though the earthquake was 2 years ago, it's going to take 40 more years just because of all the damage that was done because of the earthquake.
And that damage has radioactive chemicals floating around. It's so much damage done by an earthquake that you can't predict at all.
Yeah, you wouldn't have expected that from just a regular earthquake. I mean, you don't even think about all the things that come after the earthquake that still affect the people. So I hope that everybody's okay and they continue to improve after that.
Me too. Well, sticking to international stories, the Prime Minister of India is currently calling for change after the protests broke out over the alleged rape of a 5-year-old girl in New Delhi. Reports of the young girl's neighbor kidnapping and abusing her over the past week came when she was found last Wednesday, and people took to the streets on Friday in opposition to Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's response. This attack is coming just 4 months after a similar situation happened to a 23-year-old student, about which the Prime Minister did not respond. This time, the Prime Minister acknowledged the horrific act, stating on Sunday that India has, quote, vast improvements to make when it comes to the safety, security, and status of women in our society. Protesters have been participating in nonviolent sit-ins outside Singh's residence, and Singh has been careful to protect the demonstrators after footage was released of a police officer slapping a female protester. Cases of sexual abuse like this have been reported several times in India in the past year, and the people are hoping for change for the women of the country.
Now, the story is just really upsetting to me.
I know. 2 women in the same week being abused.
I can't imagine a 5-year-old girl, and apparently the girl in the room next to her at the hospital was in a similar situation, also 5 years old. That's just terrible.
So young and so innocent. I'm glad that the Prime Minister is making strides towards acknowledging this.
Yeah, that's definitely a good step. I hope that he carries out his promise because things definitely need to change. While India continues the fight for criminal justice, Egypt is facing a battle over the constitutional referendum. President Mohamed Morsi announced Saturday night that he will cancel the decrees that gave him judicial powers, but he will not delay the vote. Anti-Morsi demonstrators have scheduled protests across Cairo to converge on the presidential palace. CNN's Reza Asaya reports from Cairo.
For 50 years, Adel Baroudi has made Egyptians rest easy by shredding fabric and stuffing mattresses. But these days, it's Baroudi who's losing sleep because of too many bills and not enough work. Baroudi says he spends more than half his income feeding his wife and 2 sons.
Whatever money I make, I'm in shock. As soon as I get any money, I run to the butcher because I need to eat.
Analysts say the Baroudi family's growing desperation is a direct result of Egypt's economic crisis that really started to intensify right after the 2011 revolution. The revolution promised bread, freedom, and social justice, but the economy took a nosedive. The street protests, political crisis, and security vacuum that followed scared off the foreign investors and tourists this economy depended on. Analysts say more than 4,000 factories have shut down since 2011, leaving hundreds of thousands without jobs. The latest government statistics show roughly 25% of Egyptians live at or below the poverty level. That's an increase of about 4% from 2009. That means 1 out of 4 Egyptians live on this or less. That's 14 pounds or $2 a day.
I haven't worked since the revolution. I have kids at school. We have no work, no income, and the country's economy is going down.
Egypt's new government promised to fix things, but has failed to deliver.
Ever since Morsi came to power, the country has been ruined.
And now Egypt is running out of money. Its foreign cash reserves, the money it uses to buy basic commodities like wheat and cooking oil, is at about $13 billion, down from $36 billion just 2 years ago. Egypt's shrinking savings has led to fuel shortages, long fuel lines, and frayed nerves. Analysts say a $4.8 billion loan from the IMF can help, but in return, the IMF wants Egypt to cut subsidies that could raise the price of bread and fuel, a move that could push many struggling Egyptians like Adel Baroudi to the brink.
We will die. If expenses go up, everyone will die.
A dire warning to a government that doesn't seem to have any easy options to fix its battered economy. Reza Sayah, CNN, Cairo.
All of the financial fallout that has happened over the past few weeks may seem out of this world, but nothing could be more otherworldly than this. Calling all amateur astronauts, a new mission to Mars wants you. The Dutch company Mars One is offering the chance to go to the Red Planet and build a human colony. But you must be willing to leave your life on Earth forever. Zane Verjee explains.
A one-way ticket to Mars. It sounds like science fiction, but it just became reality. Starting today, Mars One is accepting applications from interplanetary pioneers. You must be willing to go further than any human has ever been to live on another world. The criteria: you need to be adaptable, resilient, resourceful, and a team player. You would be the new Christopher Columbus or Magellan, but there are downsides. No oceans, no trees, no morning cup of coffee. Instead, dust storms, barren deserts, volcanoes, and the biggest downside of all, you can never return. But Marsonauts won't be taking off anytime soon. First, they'll undergo 8 years of intensive training, isolated from the rest of the world, learning to live in close spaces. They'll take off on their mission in 2022. No human has ever stepped foot on the Red Planet. It could be you.
Mars One is a nonprofit organization, and it's relying on donations and sponsorships to fund the project. The group estimated the cost of putting the first 4 people on Mars at about $6 billion.
So can you believe that I've heard that apparently 10,000 people have already applied? That many people from, I think, over 100 different countries. So people are definitely interested in this, which is really interesting.
I mean, I could see the appeal. It's just a whole new planet to live on, but I mean, you have to leave Earth forever. It's pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
I'd be very afraid.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about like traveling to Mars and things like that for like since we were little kids, but I can't imagine living there and leaving forever.
I know.
It's like too much.
Vacation of a lifetime, literally.
Definitely. Well, heading back down to Earth, let's see what weather we can expect for the next week. Here's the highs and lows report with Allie Reed.
Thanks, Briana. So, over the past few weeks, we've seen the weather dip and rise like crazy, and this week, we are going to see less of those mood swings from Mother Nature and more of her warming glow. Before moving into our local weather, we will take a look at the nation. The West and Midwest is finding the end to Winter Storm Zeus, experiencing a few inches of snow and some hail and thunderstorms and rainfall. Soon the temperatures will be returning to the higher peaks in the 60s and 70s. Even though the storms are ending, westerly winds in the south may cause a bit of flooding tonight at high tide, so the Midwest has to be prepared for that. The south also has sparse thunderstorms and showers to watch out for. Moving to the northeast, a low-pressure system will be pushing its way to shore until Wednesday morning, causing a watch for heavy rain as it passes through. Now, before you get too hasty with those umbrellas, Marist students, let's take a closer look at the forecast for Poughkeepsie to keep you dry and prepared as this week moves on. As the pressure system moves away tonight, the air will dry out and the clouds will roll in. Expect partly cloudy skies to come in early and stay late into the night. The low for the night will be around 40 degrees with humidity around 77%. Winds will be raging on at 10 miles per hour. Moving into Wednesday, Marist campus will get a pleasant surprise with highs at 75 and a mostly sunny sky. Be sure to wear your sunblock while enjoying Marist Beach. A nice wind of 13 miles per hour will help cool off the afternoon. Thursday and Friday, we will see temperatures drop into the mid to low 60s and 7-mile-per-hour winds off the river. To start out your weekend, though, Marist campus will see a rise in temperature with a high of 67 and a light breeze of 5 miles per hour. Skies will be partly cloudy, which is great news for the MCTV event Foxapalooza that will be held on the riverfront that day. That brings us to your forecast for the Goo Goo Dolls concert. Sunday won't be as nice as Saturday, but you can still expect highs to be in the 60s with a cooling breeze off the river of 8 miles per hour. Skies will be partly cloudy for most of the afternoon. Monday will be pretty much the same as Sunday with a high of 62 and a low of 45. And Tuesday won't be much different either. Expect partly sunny skies with a high of 65 and a low of 47. Well, that's all I have for you this week. Enjoy the sunny weather and your concert weekend, Marist. With your weekly highs and lows report, I'm Allie Reed. Back over to you guys.
The weather hasn't been too violent here at home, but our neighbors to the north are currently finding themselves waist-deep in trouble. Parts of Ontario, Canada's cottage country, are underwater. Heavy rain and melting snow are causing extreme flooding in areas north of Toronto. The communities of Huntsville, Bracebridge, and Kawartha Lakes have been hit hard. Water levels are at a record high and dozens of roads closed. Some residents have been forced out of their homes because the days of flooding. Emergency Management Ontario field officers have been deployed to offer assistance to the affected communities.
Focusing on your health. While growing up, many of us have heard the phrase, clean your plate or no, you can't have candy. But how exactly do these parental attitudes towards food affect a child's weight? Here's Elizabeth Corridon with today's Health Minute.
A new study out of the University of Minnesota has found a lot of parents deny their children certain foods or force them to clean their plates. But data has also shown that these practices may be causing weight issues in their kids. The study found parents who restricted certain foods, such as candy or junk food, were more likely to have overweight or obese children. And those parents who pressured their children to eat everything at a meal had youngsters who were not overweight but did show signs of eating and weight problems later in life. Researchers also found dads were more likely than moms to pressure their sons and daughters to eat, and adolescent boys were pressured more than adolescent girls. The data also showed that restricting food from kids was a common practice of both fathers and mothers in both boys and girls. Investigators believe that parents should keep an eye on their child's weight and understand good eating practices instead of worrying about whether their kids clean their plates or have a cookie now and then. They recommend such practices as eating regular family meals, having nutritious snacks at home, choosing healthy foods, and encouraging young people to make better food choices as a way to fight weight problems. For today's Health Minute, I'm Elizabeth Corridon.
Well, my mom always told me that it's not how much you eat, but it's what you eat.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, it's definitely interesting to think of that, you know, telling your kids to eat everything that's on their plate would increase obesity just because they're always like not sure if they're going to be full or like trying to please their parents and eat everything.
Right.
But I think if you're eating healthy food, I mean, you should be telling your kids to eat healthy. So
Yeah,
I feel like that wouldn't cause too many problems.
Yeah, you can never eat too many vegetables.
Yeah, definitely.
Might as well clean the veggie-filled plate.
I agree.
Well, no matter what children are eating at the dinner table, the tendency to take out cell phones and play with them during meals is not uncommon today. And a new music feature by Twitter may be keeping that phone away even harder. The social media giant has recently unrolled a new platform that will allow tweeters to listen to music. More details in today's Clicked In.
Twitter has pressed play on a music app for all 200 million of its users after sound-checking it with celebrity musicians first. The app allows users to discover new music based on everyone they follow. A Now Playing list shows users what's popular among connections. Another chart shows what's popular among all users.
You look at your Twitter app, you look at the people you're following, and it can show you what their tracks are, etc. If you have one of the music subscription services like Spotify or RDO, you can actually listen to full tracks from within the Twitter app.
It also gives music lovers the chance to tap into the tastes of their favorite artists.
If you click on that artist, it's going to take you to the people that that artist follows, and the musician specifically. And that's, I think, the really powerful aspect of Twitter Music, because it allows you to see who influences the people that influence you.
Twitter's mobile music app is available for Apple right now. Android will come later. It arrives just 3 months after the launch of Twitter's video app Vine, which lets users tweet 6-second videos. I'm Karen Kafa, and you're now Clicked In.
Switching over to entertainment news, a member of Three Doors Down is implicated in a deadly traffic accident, and Tom Cruise was the big draw at the box office. Here come the details in this week's Hollywood Minute.
The bassist for the rock group 3 Doors Down is facing charges of vehicular homicide. Police say Robert Todd Harrell was speeding Friday night in Nashville when he clipped a pickup truck, sending it down an embankment. The driver was killed. Police say Harrell acknowledged drinking hard cider and taking various prescription drugs. In a statement on its website, 3 Doors Down says it's deeply saddened by the death of the driver and said our hearts and prayers go out to his family and friends at this difficult time. The post-apocalyptic Oblivion obliterated the competition at the box office over the weekend. The film, starring Tom Cruise, topped the box office with $38.2 million in ticket sales. 42, the Jackie Robinson biopic, continues to score with moviegoers. It pulled in another $18 million in its second week in theaters. And the DreamWorks animated feature The Croods held on to third place with another $9.5 million in ticket sales. For Hollywood Minute, I'm Carl Azus.
Our last story for tonight looks at a new study on distracted driving. Texting while driving is often perceived as a teenage problem, but a new study showed that adults are actually more likely to text than teens. Almost 50% of the adults admitted to texting while driving, while only 43% of teenagers admitted to it. Shockingly, it did not even matter if there was a young child in the car. Even mothers with infants admitted to texting and driving. A Safe Kids worldwide advocacy group took a survey and found that, quote, 78% of mothers with children under age 2 acknowledge talking on the phone while driving with their babies. 26% say that they text or check email. These scary statistics have only grown from previous studies that showed that texting while driving is 6 times more dangerous as drunk driving, because the driver is completely distracted from the road. 39 states have banned texting while driving, which does not seem to be helping the issue. With 50% of drivers texting while driving, getting on the road is growing to be even more dangerous. When questioning why people still do this dangerous act, they responded that they did not want to lose productivity and that they want to stay connected. 43% of people say that they check their phones because, quote, it's a habit. But for those who cannot break the habit, several apps have been introduced to prevent this hazardous driving. Apps that read incoming texts and emails out loud for the driver to hear, apps that detect that a phone is at a speed faster than 10 miles per hour and that automatically locks, and others that automatically respond to callers or texters with a response message if the car is moving more than 25 miles per hour. For paranoid mothers, there are even apps that let mothers know if their child was using their phone while driving. However, another way around the habit is to put your phone in airplane mode. Text and emails won't come in at all, or simply put the phone away.
That's all the news we have for you this week. Be sure to tune in next time. I'm Briana Flynn.
And I'm Bonnie Orr. Thanks for stopping by.